Sir, start.
Good morning, children. Welcome to another session in physics, first year classes. Okay. Today we will be dealing with measurements. Subramaniam sir will take the session. The previous session also was taken by him, and he has enlightened us on various aspects of physics, its scope, etc. So today he will elaborate us on measurements. Over to Subramaniam garu.
Sir, thank you, sir. Sir, 1 minute, sir. I'm starting the screen share.
Sure, sir, sure.
Yes, sir. Good morning, children. Welcome back to another webinar session for the first year intermediate students of our model schools. So already you have seen that we are dealing with the unit 2, units and measurements. Today I am here to present second part of this particular unit. Shall we go into the lesson, children? Yes. Okay, children. Let's start our session. So we are now dealing with the part 2 of units and measurements. Shall we go into the lesson, children? Today's learning objectives. We will look at definitions of the fundamental units. We will also look at measurement of length, mass and time. We will learn about accuracy, precision of instruments and errors in measurement. So these are the learning objectives for today's lesson. Recall the information what you have dealt in unit number, that is lesson 1 of this particular unit. The first point, fundamental physical quantities. They are the physical quantities which are independent of other physical quantities, derived physical quantities. They are the physical quantities which are expressed in terms of fundamental quantities. Third point, the units for the fundamental quantities are called fundamental units. The units for the fundamental quantities are called fundamental units. The units that can be expressed as a combination of the fundamental units are called derived units. So these are the things which you have learned in the previous webinar class. Let's move on, children. Let's look at the first objective for today. Okay, that is learning about the definitions of the fundamental units as per SI system. So SI units and their standard definitions. As you are able to see on the screen, I am showing you an image. This image, at the center of this image, if you see, there is a cylindrical block. This block is made up of platinum and iridium, and it is exactly 1 kg. And this is the standard mass that is defined per kilogram. Okay, so let us look at the definition of kilogram. The first SI unit definition. It is the mass of the international prototype of the kilogram, a platinum iridium alloy cylinder kept at International Bureau of Weights and Measures at Sèvres, near Paris in France. So this cylinder, which is of 1 kg and made up of platinum and iridium alloy, is considered as prototype of kilogram. Prototype, the word prototype actually means it is the taken standard. Here the word prototype actually means the standard what we are considering. 1 minute, children. So here you are able to see one word, prototype. This prototype word is nothing but the standard what we are considering. Okay, that is the meaning of the word prototype. Okay, clear? So I will move on. Let's go into the next one. So let's see, children. One minute. Meter, the second SI unit. It is the length of the path traveled by light in vacuum during a time interval of 1 by 299 792 458 of a second. So let the graphic come up. I will explain. So what is the meter, children? It is the length of the path traveled by light in vacuum during a time interval of how much? 1 by 299 792 458 of a second. That means in this fractional time, how much distance the light will travel, that is considered as meter. Next, the definition of second. It is a duration of 9192 631 770 periods of the radiation corresponding to the transition between two hyperfine levels of the ground state of the cesium-133 atom. So this I would like to elaborate a little bit, children. Here we are talking about the definition of second. How are we defining this? Means in chemistry you studied that whenever an electron jumps from higher energy level to lower energy level, there will be a transition of the electron, and due to that radiation will be released. So for releasing the radiation, and with how much period the radiation is getting released, so many periods if you consider, that is taken as 1 second, children. That means this many periods, this many times, periods means times you can tell. So 9192 631, 770 periods of the radiation. That means so many times to get emitted. How much time it will be taken, that is itself known as second. Okay, so which atom, in which particular atom? Cesium 133 atom, right? So the next one, ampere. What is ampere? It is a unit of current, yes or not? So how do we define this current? It is the constant current which, if maintained in two straight parallel conductors of infinite length of negligible circular cross section and placed 1 meter apart in vacuum, would produce between these conductors a force of 2 into 10 power minus 7 Newton per meter of length. Okay, so I will explain, just a minute. So what is this actually? If you are considering this one, then it is a constant current which is maintained two straight parallel conductors of infinite length of negligible cross section placed 1 meter apart in vacuum would produce between these conductors a force of 2 in 10 power minus 7 Newton per meter of length. So when you keep two straight parallel conductors parallel 1 meter apart in vacuum, two conductors, children, two conductors means what? Wires. Two wires, two straight wires parallel to each other, kept 1 meter apart, will have a force of 2 into 10 power minus 7 Newton per meter of length when current of 1 ampere is flowing. That is the definition of 1 ampere. Here ampere definition means 1 ampere definition. In your second year intermediate, you will learn that whenever there are two current carrying conductors placed near each other, there will be some force between them. That is this force. This already you studied in electromagnetism chapter in your 10th class. Okay, I request all of you to revisit that particular chapter, and you can understand why they are repelling, why they are having some force between them. Okay, so let me move on. The next one, Kelvin. Kelvin means 1 Kelvin definition. How are you defining 1 Kelvin? It is a fraction 1 by 273.16 of thermodynamic temperature of triple point of water. So there is something called as triple point, children. The triple point temperature, for that temperature you must take 1 by 273.16. That is defined as 1 Kelvin. So this you will learn in thermodynamics chapter of first year intermediate. Okay, the next one, mole. It is the amount of substance which contains as many elementary entities as there are atoms in 0.012 kilograms of carbon 12. You know carbon 12, standard atom of carbon. Here 12 denoting its mass number. So if you take 0.012 kilograms of carbon, okay, 0.012 kilograms means how many grams? 12 grams. Okay, 12 grams of carbon, if you take, in that how many elementary entities are there? Here elementary entities. The word elementary entities meaning what? Atoms, elementary particles, yes or not? So here elementary entities as there are atoms in. So how many atoms are there in 12 grams of carbon atom? That much substance is known as 1 mole. Okay, so the 12 grams of carbon, how many atoms they are carrying? That is the quantity, that is the amount of substance of 1 mole. Okay, the next one, candela. It is a luminous intensity in a given direction of a source that emits monochromatic radiation of frequency 540 into 10 power 12 hertz, and that has a radiant intensity in that direction of 1 by 683 watt per steradian. Okay, so luminous intensity means, I told you no last time, amount, that is the unit for measuring the light, how much light is coming from a source. So it is the luminous intensity in a given direction of a source that emits Radiation of how much frequency? 514 to 10 power 12 hertz. And has how much intensity level? This intensity again you will get in second year intermediate children. Okay. The radiation intensity is how much? 1 by 683 watt per steradian. So this you can understand easily. See here, watt denoting power, steradian denoting the solid angle. That means the amount of power radiated for one steradian is itself the intensity, children. Okay, you will learn more about it in your second year. Okay, need not worry. So these are all the standard definitions. You just need to remember them. Okay, that they are defined quantities. So let's move on. Okay, so now let us get into the next learning objective, measurement of length, mass and time. What are you seeing on your screen? A nice scale, measuring scale. What do you use a scale for? We use it for measuring the length. Yes, everybody knows. Yes or not? So what are the scales you have come across in your student life? You tell me. A small scale, 15 centimeter scale, or you also have come across a longer scale, 30 centimeter scale. If you go to your physics laboratory, you will get 1 meter scale, that means 100 centimeter scale. So these are all the measuring scales which you have already come across. In your physics lab, in your school level, you might have done already, if you remember, that 10th class activity, UV method and all those things. Yes or not? In that method, you are using a long scale, 100 centimeter scale. So these are the different types of scales you have been using for measuring the length, right? So meter scale, what is it used for? Use it for measuring length from 1 millimeter to 1 meter. So this sentence, please see carefully. It is used for measuring lengths from 1 millimeter to 1 meter, children. Okay, 1 millimeter to 1 meter. 1 millimeter is the least measurement you can make with this scale. What is the highest measurement you can make? 1 meter. 1 meter means 100 centimeters. So here I want to tell one important thing. This measuring instrument, which is nothing but the scale, what is the least value this can measure? 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter. Less than 1 millimeter, can it measure? No, it cannot measure. It cannot measure less than 1 millimeter. And you all know that 1 millimeter is how many centimeters? 0.1 centimeters. So the discussion what we are doing, less than 1 millimeter, if I want to measure, how to do it? That is the question. For that, let us see how to do it. Okay. We can use something called as vernier calipers for that. So a nice graphic is coming up on your screen, you see. I have taken a bolt and I am trying to measure the size of the diameter, outer diameter. Yes or not? Okay. So how is it doing? We are fixing the bolt. This is the bolt, you see. This bolt I am fixing between the two jaws. Then I am getting the reading here. Yes or not? I am getting the reading here. Here you seeing two scales, children. This is this scale. 1 minute. Just hold on. Just hold on, children. I will explain. If you see carefully here, this 1 minute. Here you see, this one, this top part, this is there in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. No, this top part, that is main scale. This bottom part, this is there, no, that is called vernier scale. Using this main scale and using this vernier scale, you can measure less than 1 millimeter also. That is the importance of this instrument. So what is the purpose of this instrument? Means it can do a lot of things, children. You will learn about it in your practicals. Very nice and beautiful instrument. This can measure outer diameter. This can measure inner diameter. Okay, outer diameter of cylinder. Similarly, if you are having a pen cap, the pen cap outer diameter it can measure. It can measure pen cap inner diameter. It can measure depth of that particular cap. So many things it can do. That is the importance of vernier calipers. Okay, so I hope I have shown you the instrument and its working, and it can measure up to how many centimeters? 0.01 centimeters. So this is how the reading is taken. You will be explained about it in your practicals. The total reading, if you see, 1 minute. Here the total reading is coming up. You just concentrate on it. 2.4 plus 0.07. 2.47 centimeters. So 0.47, that's what I was telling. It can measure less than 1 millimeter also. So the next doubt what my scientific mind asks me is, sir, then I want to measure something else also. I want to measure the thickness of the paper. I want to measure the thickness of human hair. I want to measure the thickness of wire. Is there any instrument to do all these things? Like I want to measure the thickness of glass plate. Is there any instrument to do all these things? Yes, your doubt is right. There is an instrument, children, which is called screw gauge. Okay, it's called screw gauge. So screw gauge, if you see, it is having again two jaws, left jaw and right jaw, two studs we can call, and the object what we are trying to measure, thickness, that is placed here. Let us say D is the thickness of that object, and here you are seeing two scales, yellow color and green color, children. That yellow color scale is called pitch scale, and this green color scale is called head scale. By taking the reading of the pitch scale as well as head scale, okay, I will know about the thickness of this particular object. You are seeing here how we are getting the reading. So again this line, this black line is called index line. Whatever reading is there, that is nothing but the head scale reading. Okay, knowing the head scale reading and knowing the pitch scale reading, I can get the value of the thickness of this object. Okay, here 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 millimeters. These are in millimeters actually. So the reading is 4 mm. Where the position of head scale here, if you see, that is 4 mm on the pitch scale. So knowing the pitch scale value and knowing the head scale value, you can measure the thickness of this particular object. I suppose I've given you proper that is sufficient information. You will learn more about it in your practicals. Okay, in your lab there will be a screw gauge, and your sir will explain about it. Let us move on, children. So it can measure up to 0.001 centimeters. So if you see carefully, this one, it can measure up to 0.01 centimeters. Less than that, who is able to measure? It can measure up to 0.001 centimeters. So please remember this data, children. Again, I will ask you when I am going to the other part of the lesson. Okay, vernier calipers, it can measure up to 0.01 centimeters. Screw gauge, it can measure up to 0.001 centimeters. Okay, let's move on. So let me explain in the measurement of length one more important concept called parallax concept. To understand this concept, you are seeing a pencil here, children. Okay, take a pencil in your hand, all of you. Okay, hold it against the wall. Hold it against the wall. Okay, and look at the pencil with one eye. First close your right eye, look at it with left eye. Similarly, next time you close the left eye, look at it with right eye. What do you see? Don't you feel that the position of this pencil is shifting with respect to the point on the wall? That is what is known as parallax. You just see here, all of you. One minute, children. Just a minute. I'm stopping the share for a moment. You see like this. You close your left eye, look at it with right eye. Okay. Then again you close your right eye, look at it with your left eye. You just keep it far away and do this. Okay. What do you feel? Don't you feel that the position of the object is changing? Yes or not? So that is what is called parallax. Okay. I'm again sharing the screen. Just a minute, children. So we'll come back to the same point. The point we are dealing is parallax. Okay. So what is parallax actually? What is parallax? That is the question. Okay. The position of an object changes with respect to a point in the background. This is called parallax. The position of an object changes with respect to a point in the background. This is called parallax. Okay. With respect to parallax, another definition is important, children. Basis. The distance between the 2 points of observation is called basis. In the earlier example, basis was the distance between the eyes. So in the earlier pencil example, I have closed one eye, I have taken one observation. I have closed another eye, taken another observation. Yes or not? So these 2 points are the points of observation, and the distance between both of them, the distance between the 2 eyes is called basis in the earlier example. Okay, so this parallax is very important in any measurement, children. You must avoid parallax error while taking the reading. This is one of the most important precautions which you learnt in the school level also, while taking any reading of the scale or anything, or ammeter or whatever it may be. You must look straight at it, okay, without any parallax error. The correct way of looking at it, you must learn, or else you will end up with parallax error in the measurement. Okay, let us move on. So now the question is how to measure large distances. So in this particular discussion, if you see, first I have told you about measuring small values, vernier calipers, screw gauge, and all those things. They are measuring very small distances. Yes or not? But now how to measure large distances. Okay, large distances. Like for example, I want to know the distance of a planet. Okay, I want to know the distance of planet from the Earth. Okay, so sometimes even nowadays in papers also they are giving, no, this planet has come very close to the Earth. Observe in the evening sky, like that. Yes or not? So how to measure the distance of such planets? There is a method for that, children. Let us learn about that method. Okay, I will explain, just a minute. First you see this yellow dot. Let us think that this yellow dot is a planet, which I am able to see. Okay, so let us think that it is S denoting the planet. A is one point of observation on the Earth. Okay, standing at the place A, I am observing this planet. I am observing this planet. Okay, let us say the distance from here to here is capital D. I don't know this distance. I want to calculate this distance. Okay, that is my idea. That is the distance of the planet from the Earth. Let us call that as capital D. Now, I am moving from A to another point B on the Earth. Okay, I am moving from A to another point B on the Earth. Let us say very far. Okay, very far away. Not very, very beside points, children. A and B should not be beside each other. Like for example, I am observing A in one country and B, A in one place and B very a little moved away from B. B should be a little bit at least far away from A. Okay. Then let us say the distance AB is small b. Okay. From B again see the position of the planet. Okay. From B again see the position of the planet. Then same distance will be there because we know capital D is very, very far away. So almost you will get same distance. So this is capital D means this also will be capital D. Because both the points A and B are from the Earth only, no. You will get doubt, sir, why this is capital D, why this is capital D. Because both the points A and B are from the Earth only. So almost you will get same distance, capital D and capital D. Now, if you see carefully, there is a triangle here. That means definitely some angle should have been formed. So let the angle is theta. Okay, let the angle is theta. Then how to measure this angle? I can treat this AB as an arc of a circle. Because small b is very less compared to capital D. The distance AB on the between the 2 points is small b, no. That is very small compared to capital D, which is the distance from sun to the planet. So in such a case, you can take AB as the arc of a circle. Then you can apply the formula in maths. Maths 7th class, 8th class, 9th class, 10th class, you learned. No, what is the formula you learned? Yes, what is the formula? Angle is equal to length of the arc divided by radius. Yes or not? Theta is S by R. We learned in a part 1 also. Yes or not? Theta is S by R. So, using this formula, now I can calculate capital D. Now, if I know theta value and already I know B value, can't I get capital D? How I will get, you tell me? Distance of the planet, capital D, is equal to B by theta. Is equal to how much? B by theta. From this formula, capital D numerator, theta comes to the denominator by cross multiplying. So simple calculation, nothing too much worry. I suppose now I have explained to you how they generally calculate the distances of planets and other things. Okay, astronomical distances can be, that is one method from the Earth to calculate such distance of planet. I have explained to you. I hope it is clear. Let us move on, children. So now let us understand some important ranges of wavelengths which we come across in our science. 1 Fermi. It is known as, referred as 1F, children. What is the value? 10 power minus 15 meters. 1 angstrom, okay, written as 1A, 10 power minus 10 meters. This is important, children. Please remember, in chemistry it will come lot of times. Okay. 1 astronomical unit, written as 1 AU. It is the average distance of the sun from the earth, equal to 1.496 in 10 power 11 meters. Next, 1 light year, 1 LY, 9.46 in 10 power 15 meters. This is the distance that light travels with velocity of 3 in 10 power 8 meters per second in 1 year. Okay, I suppose the values are clear. Let's move on. So here is a important comparison, range and order of the things. Order of the lens. Order of the lens denoting you are able to see. Order of the length. Okay. So size of the object or distance, length value, approximate length value. Size of the proton. What is the size of the proton? 10 power minus 15 meters. Length we are showing in meters, children. Concentrate on the values, children. I will ask you an interesting question. Size of atomic nucleus, 10 power minus 14 meters. Size of hydrogen atom, 10 power minus 10 meters. Distance of the atom from the earth, distance of the sun from the earth, 10 power 11 meters. Distance to the boundary of observable universe. Distance to the boundary of the observable universe. Boundary of observable universe, 10 power 26 meters. See this 10 power minus 15 and this is 10 power 26. Very small, 10 power minus 15. Very large, 10 power 26. So that is what I am trying to tell you by order of the length. If you look at the order of the length, you will understand how much it is going to be, the size. Can you tell me, just by looking at this table, how many times? See, if you see carefully, proton, atom, just concentrate on these two values. Proton and atom, or proton and nucleus. So these are beside each other. Concentrate on these two values. Size of proton, size of nucleus. Yes, which is bigger? You tell me. Which is the bigger one? 10 power minus 15 or 10 power minus 14? Yes, you are right. Size of nucleus is bigger compared to the proton, because this is 10 power minus 15. No, it is small. This is 10 power minus 14. No, it is bigger. So you will know comparison. And if you take the ratio, you will also know how many times it is. If you, for example, if you take the ratio between size of the nucleus and size of the atom, size of the nucleus is 10 power minus 14. Size of the atom is 10 power minus 10. If you take ratio for these two, for example, if you take ratio, children, 1 minute. If you take ratio here, children, I'm just giving you 10 power minus 14 and 10 power minus 10 ratio. What will it be? You know, this goes above. 10 power minus 14 plus 10. Minus 14 plus 10 will be 10 power minus 4. Okay? Sorry. So it is 10 power minus 4. So this is the ratio between size of the nucleus and size of the atom. I suppose I was clear. Let's move on, children. So now let us come to measurement of mass. Okay. Mass is a basic property of matter. It does not depend on the temperature, the pressure, or location of the object in space. While dealing with atoms and molecules, the kg is inconvenient unit. So let us explain one by one. Mass is basic property of matter. What does this mean? We know that matter means substance. Every substance has mass compulsorily. That means it is a basic property. Second one, it does not depend on the temperature, pressure, or location of the object in space. This is important, children. Many students make a mistake, even in school level also. For example, I will ask one small question to all of you. You know that 1 kg stone they will use in the common balance when you go to buy vegetables. Yes or not? That 1 kg stone I am taking from earth to the moon, let us say. Will it be same 1 kg or will it change? No. Position, it does not change with the position. The same mass will be maintained here and here as well as on the moon also. Mass does not change with temperature, pressure or location. Then you might get doubt. Sir, what will change? Weight of the object will change because weight is mg. You studied in 9th class, no? Weight of the object is m into g. M means mass, g means gravity. That is acceleration due to gravity. When you go from earth to the moon, you know g value will change. On the earth it is 9.8, whereas on the moon it is 1 by 6th of 9.8. So definitely weight will change, mass will not change. Please remember, children, mass does not change from place to place. Weight can change from place to place. Okay, I suppose it's clear. The last point. While dealing with atoms and molecules, the kilogram is an inconvenient unit. What is inconvenient? It is inconvenient to measure. Smaller unit can be adopted because atom itself is so small. Molecules are so small. Protons, electrons, neutrons. These are much smaller than the atoms. If I am showing them in kilograms, their mass will be very inconvenient because I have to write it in very, very small values. So instead of that, we are adopting a convenient unit. What is that unit? Let us see. Important for the exam. Please make a note of it. Earlier thing also important. Unified atomic mass unit. Let us define this. One unified atomic mass unit is called 1U. What is it equal to? 1 by 12th of mass of an atom of carbon 12 isotope, including the mass of the electrons in it. And 1U, one atomic mass unit, is 1.66 into 10 power minus 27 kgs. This symbol you are seeing, children, 6C12. 6C atomic number, 12 mass number. So one unified atomic mass unit is 1 by 12th of the mass of atom of carbon 12. That is how you measure it. And its value is given here. Highlighted value. Okay? Clear? Please learn it carefully. It's important for the exam. Now I am coming to the next one. Measurement of time, children. How do you measure time? Okay? Obviously, we know time is measured by using a clock. Yes, atomic clocks are used for measurement of time. So here you see atomic clock. This atomic clock is taken as a standard. Internationally also they are there. Okay, and in India it is there in National Physical Laboratory in New Delhi, children. Okay, there is an atomic clock which is taken as standard for measuring the time. Some important prefixes I am telling to you. Please remember, they are important from science point of view. 10 power 24, known as iota, symbol is Y. 21, 10 power 21, known as zeta, symbol is Z. 10 power 18, exa, symbol is E. 10 power 15, peta, symbol is P. 10 power 12, tera, capital T. This 1 terabyte memory. Nowadays you are telling no. In computers, 1 terabyte memory. Like the 10 power 9 gigabyte, 1 GB memory, you will tell no, that one, giga, capital G symbol. 10 power 6 mega, capital M. Megawatts. In paper sometimes you will get megawatts. So many megawatts of power that that particular unit is producing. 10 power 3, you know this, kilo, small k. 10 power 2, hecto, h. 10 power 1, known as deca, da symbol. Okay, the next one. So in the earlier slide, you are seeing more than 10 power 1 powers. Lesser than 10 power 1 values, let us see here, next one. Okay. 10 power minus 1, known as deci, small d symbol. 10 power minus 2, centi, c. 10 power minus 3, milli, small m. 10 power minus 6, micro, mu. 10 power minus 9, nano, n. 10 power minus 12, pico, p. 10 power minus 15, femto, f. 10 power minus 18, atto, a. 10 power minus 21, zepto, z. Small z in children. That is the difference between the earlier value and this value. 10 power minus 24, yocto, y. Okay. So these, remember, they are important for every science student. So whenever you are dealing with numerical questions, sometimes they will use these symbols. So you must know what is the conversion factor. So let us come to the concluding part of the lesson, errors. So what is an error? The result of every measurement by any measuring instrument contains some uncertainty, which is known as error. Okay, the difference between the true value and the measured value is equal to the error. I will explain this with a small example, children. Okay, let's see. You are seeing boiling water here. What is the temperature of boiling water? Generally, we studied in school level, or not, 100 degrees centigrade. But let us say I used one thermometer and it is showing the temperature of this boiling water as 99 degrees centigrade. Immediately, will you get a doubt or not? Is it showing correctly? Is this measurement correct, first of all? Because I know that the temperature of boiling water should be 100 degrees centigrade. But this is showing as 99 degrees. So this is the true value. 100 degrees centigrade is the true value. But the measured value is how much? 99 degrees centigrade. That means, is there an error in the measurement or not? Yes, definitely there is an error. How much error? The difference of these two values. 100 and 99. Difference is how much? 1 degree centigrade error it is showing. So that is what I am talking about. The measurement, whenever you do, there can be an error in the measurement. That is what we are talking. Okay. So whenever we are using some measuring instruments, because of the measuring instruments, there can be error. Okay, there can be a error. That's what we are talking about. So let's move on. Let's talk about two important definitions with respect to errors. First one, accuracy. The closeness of the measured value to the true value is called accuracy. Accuracy depends on the errors. The closeness of the measured value to the true value is called accuracy. I will explain this with an example, children, so that all of you will understand. You see this example. The true value of a length is 3.678 centimeters. A student is doing the measurement. In the first trial, measured value of length is 3.5 centimeters with some instrument. In the second trial, measured value of length is 3.6 centimeters. Which is the more accurate trial? This is the question. I suppose the screen is clear. Tell me, actual true value is how much? 3.678. Trial 1 value is how much? 3.5. Trial 2 value measurement is how much? 3.6. Which is closer to this one, children? 3.678 is the true value. Is 3.5 closer to 3.6 or 3.6 closer to 3.678? Yes, very simple. 3.6 is closer to 3.678. That means 3.6 measurement is having more accuracy than 3.5 measurement. That is what is the meaning of accuracy. The closeness of the measured value to the true value. So, the 3.6 centimeters is closer to 3.678 compared to closeness of 3.5 centimeters to the true value, 3.678 centimeters. So, trial 2 is more accurate than the trial 1. I suppose I have explained to you. Shall we move on? Precision. What is precision? The precision tells us to what resolution or limit the quantity has been measured by the measuring instrument. Precision does not depend on errors. So precision tells us to what resolution or limit the quantity has been measured by the measuring instrument. Okay, up to how much limit it has been measured, whether you are measuring up to 0.1 centimeters or 0.01 centimeters, or you are able to measure up to 0.001 centimeters, that is what is the resolution or limit of measurement. So that is what this precision tells us. Okay, to explain, I will give you a small example. Let us see. The true value of length is 3.678 centimeters. I am using one instrument. The measurement of length with this instrument is 3.5 centimeters. That means how much is the resolution? 0.1 centimeters. Concentrate, children. I am using another instrument. The measurement of length is 3.38 centimeters. Resolution of instrument is 0.01 centimeters. So, the second measurement has more precision than the first measurement. But the first measurement is more accurate than the second. Now let us try to understand, children. Actual true value is 3.678. Yes or not? But when I use the first instrument, how much it is measuring? 3.5. That means up to 0.1 it is able to measure 0.1 centimeters. Yes or not? That is the resolution. Yes or not? Then second instrument is used. I got a measurement 3.38 centimeters. Resolution of instrument is 0.01 centimeters. Now tell me, here 0 up to 0.01 I am able to measure. That means more digits I am able to measure. That means precision is more with the second instrument. Second instrument is having more precision than first instrument. That means second measurement has more precision than first measurement. But if you see the values carefully, 3.5 is closer to 3.678. That means the first measurement is more accurate then the second one. So that is the importance of this example. So a measurement can be more accurate but less precise. That is also possible. That's what I wanted to tell with this example. Okay. So let us come to the types of errors, children, since we are discussing errors. Errors are broadly classified as two types of errors: systematic errors, random errors. Systematic errors, random errors. Two types. First, let us talk about systematic errors. Okay. Systematic errors are those errors which tend to be in one direction, either positive or negative. Some sources of the systematic errors are: number one, instrumental errors; number two, imperfection in experimental techniques or procedures; number three, personal errors. So systematic errors are those errors which tend to be in one direction, either positive or negative. That means they are either positive or negative. They are only either one of them. That is what is meaning of this sentence. And what are the sources? Sources mean reasons. What are the reasons for the systematic errors? They can come due to instrumental errors. They can come due to imperfection in experimental technique or procedure. Imperfection means, what is the meaning? They are not doing it perfectly. Like, for example, the teacher is teaching one method, the student is following another method. That means automatically he is following a wrong method and he will get wrong result. Yes or not? So that is what is the meaning of imperfection. Next, personal error. This I will explain. So these are the different sources of systematic errors. Let us explain one by one. Instrumental errors. They arise from errors due to imperfect design or calibration of measuring instruments. Zero errors in the instrument, etc. Example: zero mark on the vernier calipers is not coinciding with, that is, vernier scale is not coinciding with zero mark scale. Okay. Ordinary meter scale may be worn off. So let us try to explain this. They arise from errors due to imperfect design or calibration. That means they have not designed it properly, not properly calibrated. The mark should have been correctly placed. They have not placed it properly. So one such example is zero mark on vernier scale is not coinciding with zero mark on the main scale, children. Okay, that is the meaning of this. Next, the ordinary meter scale may be worn off. You are using a normal scale, but zero is not properly visible on it. Worn off means it's not properly visible. The paint might have been gone. So when you are using such error, such things, there are bound to be instrumental errors. Okay, so this is what I am meaning by this. Here you see, 1 minute. The zero on the vernier and zero on the main scale, they must coincide when they are touching. But if they don't touch, there will be some error. That is what is the meaning of this. Okay. Next, imperfection in experimental techniques or procedures. So they arise due to external factors like temperature, humidity, wind velocity, etc. during the experiment may systematically affect the experiment. So whenever there are external factors like temperature changing or humidity changing, wind velocity changing, they may affect the experiment what you are doing. Okay. Next one, personal errors. This is important, children. They arise due to an individual's approach, lack of proper setting of the apparatus or individual's carelessness in taking observation without taking proper precautions, etc. Example, error due to parallax. So I told you already, you must look at the reading properly. So if somebody is careless and not taking proper precautions also, these errors will come. And the instrument is not set up properly also, this problem will come. This personal error will come. Carelessness. So all these are reasons. To explain, I am showing this. You are seeing one ammeter. See the needle position. If you see the needle straight, then only you will know the correct reading. But if you see it with some tilted head, like your head is falling off to one side and always you are looking at the reading like that, will you know the correct reading, children? That is where your personal error is coming up. Okay. So how to minimize systematic errors? Systematic errors can be minimized by improving the experimental techniques, selecting better instruments, removing personal bias. Improving the experimental technique, you know. Selecting better instruments means better quality instruments, which are not one-off and all. Last, removing personal bias. Personal bias meaning, so whatever we told now, removing the personal parallax error or avoiding carelessness and following proper precautions. These are all the things which is meant by this last sentence. Okay, that brings me to the last point of today's discussion, random errors. Random errors, what are they? They are the errors which occur irregularly and hence are random with respect to sign and size. Example, unpredictable fluctuations in voltage, temperature, etc. So for example, you are doing Ohm's law experiment. You know, you are measuring V is equal to IRS or not. You are measuring resistance is V by I. And their voltage is continuously changing because of some problem. Will you get correct value? No. So that is one such example which gives random errors. Okay. So to close off, let us talk about least count error. What is least count actually, children? The smallest value an instrument can measure accurately is called the least count. Okay. Least count, for example, least count of normal scale is 1 millimeter. Least count of wall clock is how much? 1 second. Like that watch also. Least count of vernier calipers is 0.01 centimeters. This wall clock, provided it is having seconds hand, with that seconds marked. Okay. So least count errors can occur both with systematic errors and random errors. Least count errors can be reduced by using instruments of higher resolution, that is higher precision, improving experimental techniques. So that brings me to the close of this session. What have we learned? The position of an object changes with respect to a point in the background. This is called parallax. One unified atomic mass unit is equals to 1U, 1 by 12th of the mass of an atom of carbon 12 isotope 6C12, including the electrons, mass of electrons. 1 U is 1.66 in 10 power minus 27 kg. The difference between the true value and the measured value is equal to the error. The closeness of the measured value to the true value is called accuracy. The precision tells us to what resolution or limit the quantity has been measured. Last point, errors are broadly classified as systematic errors, random errors. To test your understanding, first question, distinguish between accuracy and precision. What are the different types of errors that can occur in a measurement? Express unified atomic mass unit in kg. So these are the things which we are dealing, children. I thank my parent department for this opportunity. I thank my coordinator sirs, Srikant Garu and Manjari madam, for this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. It was a very wonderful session, especially the discussion over errors was really very good. The way you have presented it, the effort that you have taken in preparing all these slides, a heartfelt thank you from the
Thank you,
webinar
sir.
team and also
Kind
from
of.
the students' side. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the kind words, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Good day, children. Sir, live ఆగిందండి.